This is Gemara and Yevamos, the Daf Yomi. All the learning for today has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf, his father, Rabbi Lezer Moshe ben Shema, whose 50th yard site was yesterday on the second day of Pesach. Amir Hashem, the learning of the entire Chabura should bring Rabbi Lezer Moshe ben Shema to an higher place in Gan Eden Shamayla, as well as all the learning trees. Shema ben Chaya Blum Yudas Bas Asima Malka. Amir Hashem, they shall find the Shidduch HaGoya Bekarif, as well as Chosru Hashem Shal Yosef ben Yefedesh Mom and Tilon Talzim Mechles and Nacham Basriva Sir Blum Bas Mendel Chai Moshe Yeshua ben Malka Bashavafega Bashira Chana Beseir Sha'ar Chayli Yisrael, and we're holding on the bottom of Mem Aleph Amid Beis, and a bit of an apology about the lateness of the Shir Du Yontif. We got a little bit behind, but B'siyat Dishmaya, after today, everything should be back in schedule. So says the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanan, we're holding about 8 lines from the bottom. Mem Aleph Amid Beis, the first one in line is Va'afilu Hachi. Tanu Rabban, Yevamos Shaloisha Chadashim or Yishayim Nizanis Mishal Baal, Mikan V'ilach Einim Nizanis, Lo Mishal Baal, V'lo Mishal Yavam. So now we continue the halachais of the 3-month waiting period, the 3 months of Havchana, as it's called. We'll see more about this in today's and tomorrow's daf. But says the Gemara, during those 3 months, who supports this woman? Who supports her? Says the Gemara, the first 3 months, her original husband's estate support her. From that point and onward, she doesn't get anything. Loi mishal baal, v'loi mishal yabam. Amad b'dinu barach. But what happens if the Yavam doesn't do Yibam, doesn't do Chalitza, and they bring him to bed and they say, you have to do something, she's waiting, Yibam or Chalitza, take your choice. And he says, Sayonara, and he runs away. Then he's on his Mishal Yavam, his properties, his estate. This Yavam, the brother, he himself has to support her. Nafla the Yavam Katan. What's the din if she falls in front of a Yavam who is a Katan? Mi'abim Lesla. Says the Gemara, then she gets nothing from the Yavam. Mibal Mai, does it revert back, because the Yavam is a Katan, does it revert back to the husband's estate? Does she get from him? So says the Gemara, this is a machlokes, 4 lines of the bottom. Ravina Charam Isla Charam Lesla Vilchos Lesla Mishmeya Kansua. Says the Gemara, machlokes, she yes or no gets. Says the Gemara, what's the halacha? She doesn't get anything. Why? Mishamaya Kansua. She is getting a kanatz from heaven, a bit of a strong lashon of the Gemara, that her husband did nothing wrong. So therefore, there's no reason his estate is that which is going to support her. Tanu Rabbanan. Now, we've been discussing that you need to wait these 3 months. What if you don't? What if the Yavam says, I'm not waiting 3 months? Tanu Rabbanan, 2 lines at the bottom of Aleph and Beis. If one of the brothers does chalitza within 3 months, he doesn't wait the requisite 3-month waiting period. Of course, let's remind ourselves as we move further that the 3 months are waiting. Why? Because if a baby is born, we have to know, is it a baby from the first husband or a child from the second husband? Similarly, she is usher to marry the second husband if there is a child from the first husband. But says the Gemara, and we learned already, chalitza, you have to wait 3 months as well. But says the Gemara, what if you did not wait? Still, you have to wait 3 months before you get remarried. Even though they did chalitza, and we have to understand why this is true. So even though the brother does chalitza, Ruvain dies, Ruvain's wife falls leaving to Shimon. Shimon does chalitza within 3 months like he shouldn't have. But now one would think that this girl, she has chalitza done, let her go out, let her marry to whoever she wants. Says the Gemara, no, she needs to wait 3 months. Turning over to today's daf, and Beis Amar Aleph, says the Gemara, if they do chalitza after 3 months, you do not have to wait 3 more months, meaning it's not 3 months from chalitza, it's 3 months from the death. And the Gemara qualifies and says, Have, learn from that which he just said, that the gimel chadashim sha'amru, mishas misabav lo mishas chalitza yavam, it comes from the time of the misa, not the time of the chalitza. Says the Gemara, Maishanami get. Why is this any different from the halacha of get? What's the question? The Rav Amar, Rav teaches us mishas nesino When do you wait the 3 months waiting period when a woman gets divorced? Is it 3 months from when she receives the get, or is it 3 months from when the husband actually wrote the get? What's the reason this halacha comes from? Is because once a get is written, the halacha is husband and his wife. If you look at the Rashi, 2 lines to the top, Rashi says that once the get is written, the husband and wife are not allowed to be miyachid, they're not allowed to be in seclusion, so therefore they can't have a child, and therefore maybe you should be allowed to already remarry 3 months from the writing of the get. Machlokes Rav and Shmuel. So says the Gemara, why according to Rav by get you wait from the nisina, the actual giving? Why don't you say it's from the ksiva, because once it's written nothing could happen? Amar Rava Kalva Chaimer. Rav would agree in our case. It's our kairis atarta. So lav like all shekain. In our case, Rav would agree that the yavam to the yavamo was originally iser kares. You have to wait 3 months. Iser lav. What's the lav? The lav is for her to marry out, to marry anyone else after chalitza. Like all shekain, certainly you're gonna have to wait the 3 months. So says the Gemara quoting the Mishnah, v'chein ashar kol anashim. And so too all other women. What's the halacha? You're only allowed to do erisin or nisuin once 3 months pass from a previous marriage. Rachel's married. Rachel will have to see what happens. Divorce, husband dies. There was only erisin, the first stage of marriage. There was nisuin, the second stage of marriage. She has to wait 3 months before remarrying. And of course we have to understand this din, which the Gemara is going to deal with right now. Says the Gemara, like we've been discussing the past few days, Kedamar, I understand why a Yevama has to wait 3 months. As we already explained, that what if the child is from the first husband, then the second marriage, the yibam, is a terrible, dreadful iser d'oraisa of Eishazach. You're not going to marry this woman. So it's very clear the reason you're waiting 3 months. Elishar kol nashin amai. All other women in the world, why do you have to wait 3 months? What's the problem? Meaning, even if she's pregnant from the first husband, so be it. What's the problem? She'll get remarried. She'll have a baby, so givaldik. Explains the Gemara, Rav Nachman Amar Shmo Misham da Amar Kra, says in the Torah, Liyos lecha leilakemu lazaracha acharecha, should be for you to a God, and your zaracha should be after you. And from here the Gemara darshins, what does it mean zaracha acharecha? Lahavchin bein zarai shal rishon lezarai shal sheni, that we want to have a good yichos, we want to know who's the father. Is it from the first husband or the second husband? So it's Xeris HaKasav that we're learning from a pasuk in Bereishis. Lezaracha acharecha. Masev Rava asks Rava lefikach. Because of this, ger v'giyaris yichalam gimel chadashim. A ger and a giyaris also have to wait 3 months. Says the Gemara. Why here do you have to wait 3 months? There's nothing to distinguish. It was the same ger v'giyaris. Reuven was married to Rachel, they became Gerim, still Reuven, still Rachel, it's the same father. So what's the reason to wait 3 months? Explains the Gemara, no, it's different entity entirely. Reuven before was a guy, now he's a Yid. You have to differentiate between Zerash and Izra B'Kedusha, Zerash L'Nizra B'Kedusha. It's a tremendous difference, it's true, it's the same person, but there still is an entity of difference, is that it is entirely a different person. There's the child with Kedusha and the child without Kedusha. Rava Amar comes along Rava, and Rava says, I'll give you a new reason. I'll tell you a new reason why in every scenario a woman has to wait 3 months before remarrying. 3 different potential issues, says Rava. Issue number 1, maybe the child will eventually one day marry the sister from his father. Let's play out the case. We have a child that's born. When this child is born, his mother and father are married. So this child thinks this is his mother, this is his father. But really, who's this kid's father? It's from the first marriage. It's from the first marriage, but the kid has no clue. So down the road, when this kid wants to get remarried, he's read a beautiful shidduch to a girl. Beautiful. No one thinks that this is in reality his own sister, because he was born from the first marriage in which no one knew about. So that's issue number 1 that we have to be concerned about. Or issue number 2 says, in the same situation of Yibum, he could end up doing Yibum to the wife of his maternal mother, or his mother might go out and marry, or the Yevamos might go out and marriage again, because we're not going to know in a situation of Yibum that he really is from the first husband. So says Rava, because there are other concerns, not, I don't want to say just, not merely, but not just like Xeris HaKasav. Rava says it's a practical problem. If we don't know which father is the father of this child, it could come out down the road to lead to a terrible situation. So Master Rav Chananya comes like Rav Chananya, Bekulani Karibem Misham Kanas Erva, the Kamishan the Kanas Valad. Says Rav Chanan is a price that says that in all the cases, the reason why you have to wait the 3 marriages is because the Kanas Erva. It's a potential Erva situation. But over here, when it comes to not the Yibum situations of the 3-month waiting period, but regular women that have to wait the 3-month waiting period, says the Raisa, you know the reason Misham Kanas Vlad, because you want to fix the child. But if Rava is correct in Rava's suggestions and the reason you have to wait, what did Rava teach us? The reason is that down the road we can come into a erva situation. Says the Gemara, really, they all have to do with erva. Says the Gemara, as everyone is anticipating, it's really a hybrid. It's a Valad issue, which is an Erva issue. It's a child that one day might marry his sister. So it's a hybrid of both, and that's what Rava says is the concern. Says the Gemara, okay, so you're telling me there's a potential issue down the road. That's why any woman that gets remarried, we make her wait 3 months prior. Asks the Gemara, I understand. Now we're going to go fundamental. Why 3 months? Let's understand this. Says the Gemara, I understand you can't wait 2 months to get remarried. Why? That is the suffix. That's the doubt. Because then a baby born, we're not going to know is it a 7-month baby from father 2 or a 9-month-old baby from father 1. Givaldik. Ella, but asks the Gemara, Tantin Chaydesh Echad V'tinase, wait 1 month. V'I Yalda, and if there's a baby born after 7 months, Haibar Shiva Lebasra. So now it's from the second husband. Who? V'Litamne Yalda, and if a baby is born after 8 months, Haibar Tisha Lekamo. Then it's a 9-month-old baby from the first husband. So asks the Gemara, why do you have to wait a full 3 months? Wait 1 month. Says the Gemara, the obvious retort, Inami litamna yalda. What do you mean? Even if she gives birth after 8 months, how do you know she became pregnant right away? Really, it's from, she gives birth after 8 months. So you're like, Gavaldik, we all know it's from the first husband. Says the Gemara, what do you mean? Maybe it's really from the second husband, and it took a month for her to get pregnant, and therefore we'll have no clue, and therefore we have to wait 3 months. Ask the Gemara further, 1 second. Wait 2.5 months. If she gives birth after 7 months, from the second one. 6.5 months, then it's 9 months of the first one. So why are we waiting 3 full months? Bar Basarhu, Bar Shito Balga, Loi Chayo. Says the Gemara, you know why? Because you're going to suggest, excuse me, this is all part of the Kasha. Vilishita Balga, if she gives birth after 6.5 months, Hi Bar Tisha Lekamu, it means it's a 9-month-old baby from the first one. But maybe, as everyone is wondering, wait, maybe it's a 6.5-month-old pregnancy from the second husband. Says the Gemara, Di Bar Basru, if it's really a 6.5-month-old pregnancy, 6.5-month pregnancy from the second husband, Parshita Balgaloi Chai, Chazal Vaklal, that a 6.5-month-old baby, 6.5-month-old pregnancy, the child will never live. And of course, we all know this doesn't necessarily work with our modern day science, Baruch Hashem. Many children do live after 6.5 months, but Bismana Chazal, that was the rule. Answers the Gemara, Inami Lishita Balga Yalda. No, Even if she gives birth after 6.5 months, maybe it is from the second month. You just told me children aren't born within 6.5 months. If there's a woman that she has full-term pregnancies, 9-month pregnancies, it's true. She will not give birth lemikutayin. She will not give birth in peace. She will not give birth in 6.5 months. It will not be a viable child. But yolda lizayin. But there are women that give birth after 7 months, and that such woman could indeed give birth. Lemikutayin could indeed have a viable pregnancy even after 6.5 months. So says the Gemara, we're still wondering why can't we wait 2.5 months? How do I know what I just said is true? The Gemara proves Shenemar v'ilid tkufas hayamim, and the word tkufas and the word yamim, miyat tkufas is bayim, miyat yamim is beis, and therefore from here we learn out that Chana gave birth to her son after 6 months and 2 days. So what do we see? We see that you only have to get into the 7th month in order. So a woman who gives birth in 7 months could give birth into the 6th month. Ask the Gemara, Vitamtin. Excuse me, this was an answer. The Gemara just answered that if you're going to tell me that she gives birth after 6.5 months, and you're going to tell me it could go by the latter one, but you could view biyoledis mikutayim, and therefore says the Gemara, a child born 6.5 months can be a 7-month child's second husband, and therefore what? It's not going to work, right? Excuse me. We were asking. Lost the train of thought. One more time. We were asking just wait 2.5 months. Says the Gemara, it's not going to work. Because if you wait 2.5 months, you're not going to know. Maybe it's a 6.5-month-old baby from the second husband. Babies don't live after 6.5 months. Proves the Gemara that's not true. That's only a woman that generally has full 9-month term pregnancies. But there are women who don't, as we see from Chana. So we have no way of proving a 2.5-month waiting period will not suffice. Ask the Gemara about 10 lines to the bottom. The first line is Vitamtin Mashu. So why don't we wait a little bit, a week or two, Vitinase, and let her get remarried? So what does that help? And then when 3 months pass, check her out. Let some woman go in and check if this woman is exhibiting signs of pregnancy after the normal 3 months, and then we'll know. And Rashi here points out the way that they check her out. There's 2 different ways of what's going on over here. Either you could just check out to see if her stomach is growing a little bit. Rashi says you could check out her dadim, that her breasts change within the first 3 months. So says the Gemara, there's a way of figuring it out. So why don't we just wait a little bit? So Amar Rav Safra explains, Rav Safra, no, husbands don't appreciate if their wife is being checked out intimately, even though it's being done by a woman, of course, by Finsnias, but still the husband doesn't like it, so we don't want to do that. Ask the Gemara, okay, why don't we check her out by walking? And the Farshim here explains, she walks on some soft dirt, and therefore we'll know, based on the way that it pushes down, if she's a bit heavier, if she's pregnant, of course, this is a little bit difficult. So, a woman covers up for herself. She wants the child to be considered a child from the second husband. She wants to get his Yerusha. So she has a way to make sure that this test of walking on the dirt will not be conclusive, and therefore the Gemara says that is not going to work. So, now we have so far concluded reasons why we have to wait for a full 3 months between 2 marriages. Now says the Gemara, hey, but wait, if we know for sure she's pregnant, then what's the problem? Let her get remarried. Meaning, let's say she's 7 months pregnant from the first husband, then her husband died. Okay, we feel terrible for her. And she wants to get remarried, boom, a week later to another man. What's the problem? We know the baby's from the first husband. So why are we waiting her wait 3 months? Alama Tanya, why do we learn? You're not allowed to marry a woman who's pregnant, a woman who is nursing of your friend. And if you did, you even have to divorce her. Says the Gemara, you know why? The reason is because you might make the obra, you might make the fetus into a sandal, it might make it a miscarriage. And if she becomes pregnant a second time while being pregnant, it might cause the first child to miscarry. Ihachi asked the Gemara, the obvious kasha, Nami. I don't understand. Her own child. Anytime a woman is pregnant, she should not be allowed to be together with her husband. Because if you're telling me there's a concern that when they're together and have tashmish, that she become pregnant a second time, whatever that means, so she should be concerned even with her own husband. Explains the Gemara, no. Two answers. Either they'll be mishamesh as b'moich, as we've learned already, a primitive condom, a way to ensure that the zera does not go in, so that she will not become pregnant. That's one eitzah, meaning because she's already pregnant. Or Hashem will have rachmanas on them. So it says the Gemara, 1 second, so in this case also, let her get remarried. If she's visibly pregnant, and then her second husband will do the same thing. So explains the Gemara de Chasa. No, you know what the issue is? The issue is that during Tashmish, the husband could push too hard and could cause miscarriage. That's the reason why we don't let her get married if she's already visibly pregnant from the first husband. Ask the Gemara the same kasha. What about himself? If a man is with his wife while she is pregnant, we should have the same concern. Explains the Gemara, his own wife will be careful. He's not going to push so hard. Hachanami asked the Gemara, what do you mean? It's his wife now. Of course he's going to feel bad for her. Ella, you know why? Stam uberes liminekes kaima. Says the Gemara, new answer. A stam uberes is going to be a menekes, is going to nurse her child. And therefore what? Till Mayaber, she's become pregnant, uma'aker chalva, and she's milk's going to become turbid, and she will not be able to nurse her baby. V'katla lei, and the baby's going to die. So the reason we don't allow her to get remarried when she's pregnant, it's because maybe when she's nursing, it's because, or even when she's pregnant, because she will be nursing, is why? Because it's going to cause her milk to become sour and their baby will die. Says the Gemara, the same kasha. So when she's pregnant with her own child, she should not be allowed to be with her husband. Explains the Gemara, when it comes to herself, you know what she does? She gives the child other food. Even if she can't nurse the baby, she'll give the baby eggs and milk, and there won't be a concern, so we're not nervous about her own child. Ask the Gemara, 1 second, if it's her own child from her first husband, says the Gemara, a fascinating final answer, the husband won't give her enough money to even give his wife, who has a baby from a different husband, milk and eggs. Ask the Gemara of Lasvinu Yarshim. So let her demand the money from the Yarshim. Amar Abaya Isha Busha Laval Bezdin Varegis has been a woman is embarrassed to go to Bezdin and the child's going to end up dying. So we see how far the concern goes. And this is the reason why any woman who's pregnant or nursing cannot get married for 3 months. Why? Look how far it goes. Because maybe she'll be nursing. Maybe the milk will go sour. Maybe she won't have money. And therefore, she'll be embarrassed to go to Bezdin. So every single woman, wait 3 months. Absolutely fascinating. Says the Gemara, we're 6 lines down, men base and base. Whether she's a Basula or a Bula, she has to wait. She has to wait the 3 months. Ask the Gemara, I don't understand. The Mishnah sounds like there's 4 different cases. Ba'ula, Basula, Nisua, Arusa. It's the same case. When you have an Arusa, then she's a Basula, because they were not together. When there's a Nisua, then she's a Bula, they were together. Amar Aviyu, you're right, Achas Basula is Achas Bulis. Shen is Armulu, Ainis Garshaben is Minasun. You're right, it's just playing out the case, explains the Gemara. Rav Elazar says the Gemara, a story, Lala Baby Midrash, he did not come to the yeshiva one day. Ashchil Ravasi, Amarle, Maya Amar Rabbanim Baby Midrash, what are they saying in yeshiva today? Amarle, he said, Amar Rav Yechlan, this Rav Yechlan is saying, Allah. Rav Yesi. That we paskin like Rav Yesi. What does Rav Yesi say? That if a woman was married, that if she did nisuin, this goes back to the Mishnah. Rav Yesi said if a woman had done nisuin, she can now do erisin without waiting. If a woman had done erisin, she can now do nisuin. Basically, if the whole concern of avchan is another child, so whenever there won't be a concern of a baby, either because you're only doing erisin, you're not having tashmish, or if you only did erisin, so there wasn't tashmish, says the Gemara, we paskin like Rav Yesi. Mechlal, what do we see from here? The Yichida Poligale. So we see who argued on Rav Yaisi. If we're passing like him, it must be it was a singular Tana that argued on Rav Yaisi. Because if not, we wouldn't pass like Rav Yaisi. We would pass like the Rabbim. Says the Gemara. And you're correct, it was a singular Tanya. Tanya, as we learned in a Brisa, if a woman was often going to her father's house after marriage, back to her father's house, there was often fights. Her husband was in jail. Her husband are old. Her husband was sick. She was sick. Or if she miscarried after the death of her husband, she can have children, or she was old, she was young, she was unable to have children, she also wasn't able to have kids. In all these cases, says the Brisa, basically all different variables of a woman who's not going to be having a baby. So Rameir is the opinion that even when you can't conceivably have a child, you still have to wait 3 months. But Rav Yehuda Rav Yehuda says you're allowed to get married right away. So what do we see in this Brisa? We see that it's Rameir, a singular Tana that always requires you to rate. So Rav Yosi is argued by Rameir. So it makes sense that we paskin like Rav Yosi that by Nesuin will allow you to do Eris, and by Eris will allow you to do Nesuin, because these are cases in which there's no concern of having a new child. Rav Chazar by Rav Yechon. Rav Yechon was Chazar, and in truth he argued with Rav Yosi. He went with Rameir. Amar Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef, if he indeed was chayzer, you know why he was chayzer? Because of the Mishnah, the karma they taught in the vineyard. What does that mean in Yavne, the Tanya? Amar Rav Shmuel ben Rav Yechon and Broika Shamati bi Chachamim, I heard from the Chachamim. Bekarim bi Yavne, the place. Kula and Tzrichas lahamtin shalosh chadashim. Every single woman must wait 3 months. And this brisa we see that the Chachamim, everyone a clear stam brisa saying you have to wait 3 months. So says the Gemara, Rav Yochanan was chayzer because of this brisa. Amar lei, and therefore we're not going with Rav Yosi, and we won't let you do anything, even Erisin, without waiting 3 months. Amar lei, Rav Yirmiyah, Rav Zego, Kielz, like Amid Rav Avua, and he came in front of Rav Avua. Ramli lei, we asked the following contradiction. Rav Yochanan says you always go with the Stam Mishnah. Utananim learned to the Mishnah. You always have to wait 3 months. So how could you tell me that we pass like Rav Yosi? If a Stam Mishnah says you also have to wait 3 months. So Amar Lei, Rav Hua said back to Rav Zerika, that which asked this question wasn't worried about that which he grinds. He didn't think about his kasha. You know what? It's true, it's a Stam Mishnah. But v'acher kach machloikesi. Ve'in halacha kistam. If you have a Stam Mishnah and then a Machlokes, take a Mishnah. We don't paskin like the Stam Mishnah. How do I know this? And with this we conclude, Amar Papa v'tim Rav Yochanan Machlokes v'acher Stam. Halacha kistam. But Stam v'acher Machlokes, and of course this means it with either within one Mesechta or within the progression of Shas. If we have a Machlokes and then a Stam, or a Stam and then a Machlokes, says the Gemara, Stam v'acher Machlokes ein halacha kistam. We do not paskin like the Stam. And therefore, says the Gemara, it's not Pashit that Rav Yochanan was Chayzer. You told me that Rav Yochanan must have been Chayzer because we had a Stam Mishnah taught in Karen B'Yavne, seemingly that everyone says you have to wait 3 months. But we just said it's not true because Stam v'acher Machlokes, we go with the Machlokes. Well, stop. Let's just go. Drop further. One more minute. Mistamich va'azal Rav Avua kasvei de Rav Nachum. Rav Avua. Actually, no. We're not going to go into this. This is going to go into all the different klalim. But the Gemara concludes that it's not pashit that Rav Yochanan was chayzer, and really Rav Yochanan could paskin like Rav Yosi that you would not always have to wait 3 months. If they only did Erisin, you could do Nesuin. Only did Nesuin, you could do Erisin. We'll pick it up from Mistamich Mir Tashem in the next shiur.